Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. There is no greater symbol of the anxiety in Washington around the upcoming rally on Saturday in support of the January 6 insurrectionists than this. The fence surrounding the Capitol building, first installed after the January 6 Capitol attack, and now put back up last night. And despite reports that many of the same extremist groups behind the insurrection plan on staying home this time, law enforcement appears to be leaving nothing to chance. Capitol Police have asked the National Guard to be on standby should there be any violence and should the need for support arise. Washington Post is reporting on law enforcement bracing for the Justice for J6 rally this way. Quote, overall, there's more confidence in the level of preparedness and far more communication and information sharing under the Capitol Police's new leadership. But for many of the officers who lived through January 6 and will be on duty again this weekend, an undercurrent of fear remains. Quote, am I scared? Absolutely, an officer told the Post. This Saturday rally forces a traumatized police force to once again protect the Capitol from protesters who openly sympathize with the people who attacked them the first time. Take a listen to some of what the officers told the January 6 Select Committee back in July.
On January 6, for the first time, I was more afraid to work at the Capitol than my entire deployment to Iraq.
I witnessed the rioters using all kinds of weapons against officers, including flagpoles, metal bike racks that they had torn apart, and various kinds of projectiles. Officers were being bloodied in the fighting. Many were screaming, and many were blinded and coughing from chemical irritants being sprayed in their faces.
As my physical injuries gradually subsided and the adrenaline that had stayed with me for weeks waned, I've been left with the psychological trauma and the emotional anxiety of having survived such a horrific event.
And January 6 now appears to have been just the beginning of what Congressman Adam Kinzinger referred to today as a new normal, a heightened state of alert from coast to coast around domestic extremist threats tied to the current Republican Party and its leader, a twice impeached, disgraced ex-president, committed to the big lie about voter fraud and a stolen election. Just hours ago, the ex-president released a statement expressing his solidarity with the insurrectionists, saying, quote, our hearts and minds are with the January 6 suspects. It's the same rhetoric and revisionist history that's being peddled by the organizers of the rally and large swaths of the Republican base. Here's what Congressman Kinzinger had to say about that on MSNBC earlier today.
I think it's ironic that, you know, the rallying cry is justice for January 6th. I think justice for January 6th would have been the impeachment and removal of Donald Trump, the calling out of people that are responsible, which I'm committed to doing. And lastly, I think it's time we stop as a party or any leaders accepting that somehow these ideas of Oath Keepers, which is basically a militia that wants to overthrow the government, that's okay. Like, we have conversations and disagreements in Congress. We don't do it by this overthrow the government fetish that seems to have spread so far.
Fetish is a good word. The ongoing, current, and heightened domestic terror threat tied to the January 6 insurrection is where we start this hour. Betsy Woodruff Swan is here, national correspondent for Politico and an MSNBC contributor. Also joining us, Christopher Goldsmith, an Iraq war veteran and former U.S. Army sergeant. He monitors domestic extremism and national security issues. And former RNC chairman Michael Steele is here. Michael Steele, there's no bottom, so I'm not going to ask you what it represents for the ex-president, twice impeached, once for his role in inciting the insurrection, to put out a statement today in support of the insurrectionists. But I want to talk about the consequences of said statement and said support. This is in the New York Times today. It's going to haunt me how the Capitol riot changed lives. Officer James Blasingame, we can't move past it. Something comes up every day, every week, where there's a new piece of information or some film or Congress won't have a commission or somebody's trying to change the narrative. You can't get past that. We go to work every day to protect Congress. These people won't even have our back. We, the officers, did our job. No member of Congress was injured that day. For them not to have our back, it's extremely disheartening. And that's putting it politely. But this is a rally for people who use flagpoles to maim and mutilate the bodies of the Capitol Police officers who protect them. Where are we heading?
Well, we're heading to a very difficult place, and I think Congressman Adam Kinzinger put his fingers on it. very precisely, that, you're looking at two possible worlds, one in which we can, have disagreements in the halls of Congress, on the streets of America, quite honestly. And yet it doesn't have to result in violence. It doesn't even have to resort to, hyperbolic and threatening conversation. It can actually be, I disagree, but okay, let's move on. That's not where we are. We're heading in the other space. And the Trump's statement today is, illustrative of that as well, where it is, okay, we're always going to continue to push the button. It's us against them. We're better than they are. They're a threat to us. We need to, take them out, get rid of Democrats, get rid of Republicans. And that rhetoric is the environment that is being stoked right now. There are any number of ways and means that we can go about it, but it really boils down to, Nicole, how much the American people are willing to tolerate. Adam is right. We can go in a lot of different directions here, but ultimately it's going to be the direction we choose as a society. And we just need to stop talking about these people as if this somehow commonplace, normal to even have that debate. No, we're not going to debate. Do we overthrow the government today, or do we go get coffee? No, we're not having that debate. So this is, let's call out what Trump and his ilk are doing and continue to stoke. We'll take the precautions on Capitol Hill for sure. We'll put the barriers up. But think about it. And this is something that every Republican member of the House and the Senate who stand with January 6th or pretend it didn't happen the way it happened to understand that what we're looking at here, all the groups, and I grew up in Washington, D.C. I grew up in Petworth, and I've seen a lot of rallies. All the groups that come to this country, come to this city, that come to this town, we don't have to scramble to put up barbed wire fences and things to keep them away from the Capitol, to keep them away from the institutions and representations of our government. This group, the Trump-led group, we got to throw up fences. We got to call out the National Guard. What does that tell you, member of Congress? That we have to do that in order for, as citizens, to exercise their right to protest. That's very different than what we've seen in the past, and it's something I think we need to acknowledge and be truthful about.
Well, I mean, let's be blunt. I mean, the ex-president said that this threat is the same as the foreign terror threat of 9/11. That's where we are. Yeah. The last Republican president said that this president's supporters, to the degree that they're radicalized to commit acts of violence, are as grave a threat to the homeland. They're from the same foul stench of an ideology as the terrorists who attacked us on 9/11. Why are we indulging the feelings of people like Kevin McCarthy and Congressman Gosar, who wants to have it both ways, who wants to be in bed with that same grave threat and remain a member in good standing in Congress? Why aren't there sanctions for people who lay down with people who, in the words of the last Republican standard bearer, represent the same grave threat to our homeland as the terrorists who attacked us on September 11th?
Well, there are two forms of sanctions that can occur here, to your point, Nicole. One is an internal, the other is an external. The internal sanction is the self-policing. It's where the leadership polices the membership that gets out of line, and it's the membership that polices the leadership that gets out of line and doesn't do the right thing. What we've seen in the internal sanction is that our leadership inside the GOP right now is more inclined to sanction those who stand for truth, a la Kinzinger and Cheney, than those who are perpetuating the lie. The external sanction is what we, the voters, do, what we, the people, do. You unelect these bastards. That's what you do. You don't give them another shot, another bite at the apple, another strike at the gold ring of Congress. You don't further empower them. And note this, if you can't vote out that individual, then don't vote enough of them in to give them power. Yeah. And that's where the upcoming election cycles rest with the American people. How much power do you want to give a party, Democrat or Republican, right or left, when they sanction and argue for a lie that you know is a lie? How much power do you want to give them? You may not be unable to elect them all, but you don't have to give them the power by giving them the control over those institutions of government that set the course for this